Welcome to Crypto Plus. It's Sunday, the 21st of August 2022, and we're looking at an article published by Gavin Stewart, a former regulator here in the United Kingdom, who has commented upon cryptocurrency regulation and has put forward the reasons why he believes they should be regulated. So without further ado, let's take a look. The London Institute of Banking and Finance. A whole new world to supervise. An article by Gavin Stewart in Financial World analyses the arguments in favour of regulating crypto and outlines what it would take to establish a good set of enforceable rules. A big reason that crypto or cryptocurrency in its various forms is such a challenge to regulators and ex-regulators like me is that it lies well beyond their normal realm of experience. Regulators have to examine many different forms of financial activity. Funeral plans and buy now, pay later are examples of recent additions. But crypto is different because it defies easy categorization. That brings considerable uncertainty over what it might become. Accordingly, this article comes with more than the usual health warnings. If nothing else, after major upheavals in May and June this year, the crypto landscape may well have morphed again by the time this article is published. Still, it's important that we should air some of the arguments about whether crypto should be regulated, and if so, how. Reasons to regulate. The reasons for bringing financial activities into regulation can be quite varied. In the case of crypto, three of the most prominent concern consumer protection, crypto as a quasi-currency, and the possibility that crypto might become systemic. The first, consumer protection. Potentially the most urgent argument because increasing numbers of consumers have been buying crypto products. This growth is fueled by extensive marketing, including sponsorship of Premier League football, Formula 1 and NBA basketball. In a parallel world, there might be good arguments for not regulating crypto assets at all for consumer protection purposes. Instead, it would be made explicit that any investment was 100% at the consumer's own risk. Both the government and the Financial Conduct Authority wish to bring it under a regulatory umbrella. And because so many consumers already own some form of crypto, around 1 in 5 UK residents according to a recent FCA speech, not regulating for consumer protection is probably no longer viable. The arguments for regulating crypto as a quasi-currency may have generated even more headlines, although the distinctions between pure crypto, stablecoins, and prospective central bank digital currency, CBDCs, are sometimes blurred. Crypto regulation will be expensive and require significant additional resources and expertise. Governments and central banks around the world, including the Joint Treasury Bank of England Task Force in the UK, have been looking at CBDC for some time, and it feels as if one will almost certainly be introduced in some form. If so, it would need to be accompanied by some kind of regulatory regime that defines both stablecoins and cryptocurrencies, if only to make it clear why they are not CBDC. And remember, CBDC as central bank digital currency. The systemic argument is perhaps the simplest. At some point, crypto's growth might well mean that the collapse of a stablecoin such as Terra USD, whose apparent value evaporated in May, would damage financial stability. If we approach this threshold, realistic arguments against regulating crypto would fall away. Separately, and irrespective of what other regulation applies, it's worth adding that the extent to which crypto can be used for financial crime will also need to be properly tackled. What might crypto regulation look like? We should start by assuming crypto regulation would be expensive, not a simple add-on to the existing framework, but requiring significant additional resources and expertise to have a realistic chance of being effective. As one example, running a fully fledged authorization regime for crypto firms and exchanges would be a major challenge, as the recent difficulty in authorizing them for anti-money laundering controls demonstrated. Their business models are likely to vary in subtle but important ways. Regulators would need time and the right expertise to assess them, a challenge that would carry over into their supervision. In the early years, this expertise will be expensive to recruit and retain, with the market inevitably keen to hire ex-crypto regulators. Another factor is that much of the crypto world revels in its outsider status, so credible regulation would need to prevent the operation of unregulated crypto firms, many of which might not be UK domiciled. Given all this, setting regulatory fees for those firms and exchanges would take on even greater importance than usual. Structure. Most regulatory structures are a form of hub and spoke, where the hub, typically the line supervisor, manages the relationships with regulated entities, with the spokes representing various specialisms to be called on as needed. For crypto, we might need a small solar system of hubs reflecting its volatility and the uncertainty about its nature and development, including its relationship to the metaverse. Also in this vein, I am usually skeptical of single-issue divisions, largely due to both the consumer and the financial crime divisions having struggled to exert influence in the old Financial Services Authority. But forming a crypto division feels the best option, specifically in comparison with crypto units embedded in existing divisions, which is the more common approach. This would allow for greater autonomy within the regulatory structure. Evidence shows crypto being used by criminals, so financial crime risk would be a priority for any regulation. On balance, the most natural home for such a division looks like being the FCA. Now, this is in the UK. That said, the Bank of England would inevitably take the lead on the currency side, while the Prudential Regulation Authority would want a say on the systemic aspects. The emphasis on clear accountability, which our Twin Peaks regulatory system demands, means splitting responsibility this way would not be easy. But there's been a gradual recognition that the biggest issues, such as climate risk and operational resilience, often require joint working. And because of some of the systemic risks crypto could pose, it might also be worth considering including coverage of crypto specifically within the Financial Policy Committee's term of reference. So how might crypto regulation be different? Regulating crypto could turn out to be very similar to other financial regulation, but its unusual genesis and development means we should not make assumptions. That said, here are some early thoughts. Financial crime. Given the considerable evidence of crypto use by criminals, financial crime risk would be a priority, needing sustained emphasis more than for most other financial instruments. Risk assessment. The FCA currently views crypto as a high-risk investment. This seems correct as an initial categorization, but we should be wary of seeing crypto as like other products, with the risk of accentuating its similarities to these and downplaying the differences. There will be a right time for comparisons, but now it seems better to analyze from first principles. While ranking assets by risk is a tried and tested approach, it might initially be too constraining in this instance. Supervision basics. In the summer of 2021, the FCI described Binance, then the world's biggest crypto exchange, as unsupervisable. For a firm to be supervisable, at least two factors need to be satisfied. First, the regulators should have a clear picture of management, governance, and controls, with easy access to the relevant individuals. Second, regulators should be able to monitor, review, and audit effectively the activities of the whole firm and where relevant, the group in which it sits. Any credible regime would need to find a way to meet these two tests. So, conclusion. Crypto is new and unfamiliar territory for regulators, but they should start grasping the nettle and work out how to regulate it in all its forms and variations. In doing so, they will need to find the right balance between keeping an open mind as to how crypto might be different but useful, and ensuring core standards are not compromised. The author is Gavin Stewart. He spent his career in financial services regulation, including 27 years with the Bank of England, the FSA and the FCA. He is now a director in Grant Thornton's Financial Services Group, where he commentates on developments in regulation and at the regulators themselves. End of article. Well, we hope you found that useful, though admittedly it was a little long. It's not something that you will find generally out there in the public domain, even though it's not technically secret. If you enjoyed it, give us a thumbs up. But whatever you do, please subscribe to the channel. There are going to be some changes here, and we don't want you to miss them. So subscribe, press the bell sign. There are exciting times to come.